Today, we're going to talk about the various different myths about driving that I've heard from both riders and drivers on Facebook pages whilst Ubering.
Ubering, the act of driving for Uber. Example, tonight I'm Ubering.
Driver again, me.
You can't touch your phone in a car.
Whilst researching a lot on this one to get the exact words that was needed to make sure I'm not giving you any misinformation, the amount of police officer videos I found trying to explain this law and got it wrong was shocking. Listen to this one.
Legislation also goes further, and it talks about mobile communication devices and devices that are capable of sending and receiving data. So if, for example, in your car you had your iPad attached to the air vents in your car on a cradle, and you were interacting with that device, you were accessing it, sending information or messages while driving, then that is also an offence, and again, you're also liable to be prosecuted if you were to drive in that way.
He's trying to explain using a handheld device in the car. Now, finally, after searching through so many videos, I found someone who actually knew what they were talking about. This is the actual law.
Do you commit an offence of using a handheld mobile phone if you interact with your phone when it's in a cradle? Well, the answer to this might be surprising to some people, because the answer is no, you won't, because you only commit the offence of using a handheld mobile phone if it is in your hand. If you interact with your phone when it's in its cradle, even if you're texting or using the sat nav or whatever it may be, you will not commit the offence of using a mobile phone. Now, having said that, you must be careful, because you don't want to allow anything in your car to overly distract you. So if you're overly engaged with your mobile phone in that way and it makes your driving worse, or you're not paying attention, it could technically amount to a different offence of driving without due care and attention, otherwise known as careless driving. But in summary, as long as your phone is in its cradle, and if you then touch it, you will not commit the offence of using a handheld mobile phone whilst driving.
You can't stop in a yellow box.
How many times have you been snarled at while you're sitting in the middle of a yellow box junction? Or even in the past, some of my riders have said, you can't do that, mate. It's a yellow box junction. Well, it's not entirely true. You can stop in the middle of a yellow box junction for various reasons. But rather than take my word for it, I found a nice video from the London Transport website. So I'm just going to let you watch that. It'll make it a lot more clearer than me babbling on.
How do you use a yellow box junction? You may enter a yellow box junction when your exit is clear and there is enough space on the other side of the junction for your vehicle to clear the box without stopping. You can only stop in a yellow box junction when turning right and are prevented from doing so by oncoming traffic or by other vehicles waiting to turn right. If your exit isn't clear and you're not turning right, no part of your vehicle should be in the box. Then, as soon as you're sure it's safe, you can proceed. Remember, blocking the yellow box junction means everyone else gets stuck with you.
Seatbelts must be worn at all times.
You do not have to wear a seatbelt if you're reversing or you're supervising the driver that's reversing. You don't have to wear a seatbelt if the vehicle you're in is used in the emergency service, such as fire, police. Another example of not having to wear a seatbelt is if you're the passenger in a trade vehicle when you're investigating a fault. Driving a goods vehicle that's on deliveries that are no more than 50 metres apart from each other. And of course, now we get close to my trade, which is I'm an Uber driver, so I'm a private hire driver. We don't have to wear seatbelts when we have a passenger in the car for safety reasons. Black acne drivers pretty much don't have to wear them at all, so long as they're working. The other exemption is if you have a medical certificate exemption. For various different reasons, that is. I won't go into the different medical ones. Now, a lot of pregnant women seem to think they don't have to wear it because they're pregnant. Well, that's not entirely true. They still have to wear a seatbelt. And the only time they don't is if they've been medically advised, in which case they can have the medical exemption certificate. You even have to wear them if you're disabled. You may have to adapt the car to suit whichever disability it is. And they're just some of the reasons why you don't have to wear a seatbelt at all times. Myth busted.
You can go 10% over the speed limit.
Amount of riders, passengers that get in my car and say, it's fine. You can go above 10% of the speed limit. You won't get a ticket. This is absolute horse wallop. Even if you go 1% over the speed limit, you can be prosecuted, especially if you get a job's worth busy. It's the same with the cameras. The cameras you see in the street. People seem to think if you go 1 or 2 and it doesn't flash, you won't get a ticket. Again, that's not the case. Now, don't get me wrong. Some police forces do operate on a 10% plus 1, 2, or 3 across the country. But you're not going to know what their policy is till it's too late. So it's best just not to risk it. Stick to the speed limit.
Just throw it out the window. It's fine.
As I'm sure a lot of my viewers know, I drive on the road between 6 to 12 hours on any given day. Throughout this, I see multiple people throwing things out the window, from something as little as a cigarette butt to as big as a whole Mackey's bag. Happy Meals all over the floor. I don't understand why people think this is okay. It's estimated that last year alone, 200,000 bags of rubbish was picked up from our A roads and motorways, costing a staggering £850 million. It's not okay. It's not fine. You can be prosecuted.
Making a profit from charging a friend for a lift.
Now, notice at the start of this, I used the word profit. If you're just asking a friend for a small amount of money for the running costs of your vehicle, say a £5 to take them down to the Asda or Lidl or something like that, then that's perfectly fine to help towards the running costs. But if you're purposely going out your way to, for example, pick up a friend from the airport who said they'd give you 50 quid to do it, that's technically making a profit, which can class you as being a taxi driver and driving without the appropriate insurance and license. This can lead to a massive fine and invalidating your driving license. So just stay clear of it.
1 drink is fine.
This is another one that really confuses me. 1 drink is fine. How many drinks can I have before I can drive? I don't understand why people don't get that there's so many variables to take into account. For example, the size of the person, the strength of the drink. It's impossible to say that 1 drink is fine for the road. What you need to do, if you are going to have a drink, you can get some testing kits from Amazon and other places like that, where you can self-test yourself before driving. It's best, obviously, not to even drink and drive, not even to have one. But if you go and get yourself some testing kits, that'll tell you straight away. They're also good to use in the morning after you've had a strong night before you get in the car. Because let's face it, if you get caught drinking and driving, you're going to get a nasty fine. You're going to get points on your license, and it may even affect you getting a job.
You can't drive with a dirty car.
Bottom line, it doesn't matter how dirty your car is. You can still drive it. But there is some legalities you must follow. Your front window and side windows at the front must be clear. Your lights must be clear. Your driving reg must be visible. If, for whatever reason, your reg plate is non-readable, you can get a whopping £1,000 fine.
You can't stop there.
As an Uber driver, I often find that I get abuse from people for stopping in certain places when I am perfectly legal to do so. An example for this is double yellow lines. You can stop on double yellow lines for loading and unloading, and you can stay there as long as reasonably necessary. But as soon as you're completed, in other words, as soon as the passenger has come away from the car safely, you must immediately move the car. Now, There is, of course, exceptions to that too. If, for example, the road markings indicate by a little lip or a little blip, whatever you want to call it, on the side of the curb, you mustn't stop there at all. So that's double yellow lines with a little blip on the curb. Also, there could be signs stating no stopping. This, again, is somewhere you can't stop. But generally, double yellow lines are fair play for taxi drivers. I've seen plenty of taxi drivers and other people park on zigzags. This is not allowed. Stop doing it. All you're doing is blocking traffic.
Speed round of other silly things I have heard.
You should always signal while changing lanes. You must always drive in the middle lane. Passing your test means you're a great driver. Speed limits are just suggestions. Hands-free devices are completely safe. Driving slower is always better. Premium fuel helps your performance on all cars. Regular oil changes aren't necessary. Red cars cost more to insure. Comprehensive insurance covers everything. Electric vehicles ain't as green as they seem. Driving barefoot or in flip-flops is illegal. Buying a new car is always better than buying a pre-owned.
Outro.
Now, I get that most of the things in this video you guys will already know, if not all of them. I just felt like making this video. Some of these things needed to be said because not all people out there, from my experience, know a lot of them. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Catch you in the next one.